So the people over at Bogren Digital just released a couple of weeks ago some brand new amp knobs, and I am super excited to be checking it out here on the channel. And these amp knobs are going to be very different from any of the other ones that we've checked out. This is the BDM Ampknob Bundle with a bunch of just classic rocking amplifier models here. And these amplifier models are the BDM 800 Bad Boy. There is the BDM 75 and also the BDM 410 JVH. And like I said, this is definitely some rocking amplifiers. So this is aimed a little bit more towards the rocker class of guitarists. And it's going to be very, very different for me being more of the high gain metal guy, but I'm pumped. Let's get in here and check it out. The idea behind the Bogren Digital amp knobs is that you will have an amp simulator that is just very simplified and not much room for option paralysis. I mean, in the earlier amp knobs, you pretty much just had a gain knob that you would turn up and choose how much distortion you want on your tone and just go from there. Very plug and play, and it sounded really great right off the bat. Now with the BDM Ampknob Bundle, you have a few more options here with different reverbs, delays, stuff like that. And on the standalone plugin as an actual software, you also have the ability to record, have a metronome. There's a tuner on the plugin as well, even in the DAW, and a lot of other stuff in there. So I say, let's go ahead and hook these guys up. Let's see what these guys sound like. Now, before we totally dive into the BDM Ampknob Bundle, I just want to let you guys know that my friends over at Bogren Digital did send over this Ampknob Bundle for me to check out and to show you guys what it sounds like. But do keep in mind that any thoughts or opinions that I share here on this video are mine alone. Bogren Digital is not telling me what to say, and they do not get to see this video before it releases. So just keep that in mind. But if you guys are new here, my name is Chris, and here on High Impact Audio, I check out all the newest and coolest guitar equipment so that you guys know what it sounds like. And if you are enjoying this video in any way, shape, or form, please remember to hit that subscribe button and that like button because it helps me out a ton here on the channel. And with that being said, let's get into the rest of the video. For the signal chain that I'm going to be using to check out the amp knob plugins today from Bogren Digital, I am starting out here with my 7-string multi-scale Diablo. This is an awesome guitar from the good people over at Balaguer Guitars, and it also has a set of Hypernova pickups in it. And literally, just straight from the guitar, I'm going direct into my audio interface and then into my DAW on my G16 from Kreative Devices back here. And everything that you guys are going to be hearing on today's video is literally just on the plugins alone. There's nothing extra added on this whatsoever because obviously we're here to find out what these plugins can do by themselves. And also for the fact that it's really hard to film a screen with a separate camera, I'm going to go ahead and throw up a screen capture up here for you guys so that you guys can also see what the heck I'm doing on the plugins. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first plugin that we're going to be checking out today in the BDM bundle is going to be the BDM 800 Bad Boy. And as most of you guys can probably tell, this plugin is modeled after the JCM 800, probably one of the most famous Marshall amplifiers out there. And this is Bogren Digital's lead knob that they have on this BDM bundle. So, of course, as the name suggests, it is more for your lead work and stuff kind of like that. So on this plugin, there's actually quite a bit of bells and whistles on it. And it's funny because I remember checking out their first amp knob. That was the Ampknob Rev C, and it was literally basically just a gain knob, and that was it. So it's interesting to see them add a few more bells and whistles, but of course, with lead work, you're going to want a few more of those bells and whistles, like, you know, your delay, your reverb, your different things like that. So let's kind of mess around a little bit here. So I'm going to instantly just raise up the gain because it's not quite enough gain for me, but it's sounding really good right off the bat. So let's see what this adds. Yeah, that is definitely putting the gain pretty much in the ballpark where I like to have it for my lead parts. But let's take a look at the effects area here. So on this plugin, you can kind of turn off the pedal here, which is basically an added boost on to the amplifier here. And then there is the effects, which you can also turn on and turn off. But let's take a look at the effects. We have reverb, we got delay. You can do a lot of different things here. You can do the time, the feedback, the level. You can even make it a ping pong delay, and you can even do a sync mode, which is really, really cool. So there's a lot of different things you can do on this. Let's up the size of the reverb. Let's get something like really ambiotic going. And then let's also up the feedback. Let's just see what we can get on this plugin. Yeah, so you can definitely do a lot with the reverb and delay on the Bad Boy 800. You can go as crazy as you want with it, or you can even go as light as you want with it. But honestly, I think probably my favorite setting is just the straight up default setting that they had on this plugin. I think this is definitely a really cool addition to the Ampknob plugins that Bogren Digital has made. It sounds really good, though I want to add just maybe a tiny bit more gain, and let's see kind of how crazy we can get with it. Let's move it up to like, I don't know, 8.6 or so, and let's see if we can really get some great sustain out of it. Yeah, you are certainly getting a lot more sustain out of it for sure. This sounds really great for your lead work, though with the overall distortion on the Bad Boy 800 here, I don't know if I particularly recommend it for any kind of rhythm work. I just find that the higher the gain goes on it, the more kind of flubby it gets. Let me kind of show you what I mean here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the effects here. And then we have it at the 8.6, but it just doesn't work very well with power chords, I find. So we have... Yeah, it just gets a little bit flubby in my own opinion, and I'm used to those more sharper distortions, you know, like a 6505, a 5150 with a boost in front of it. It doesn't quite do that for me on the rhythm work. So I would say that the Bad Boy 800, it is a lead knob, so I would say it definitely just works better for a lead type part. But man, you can get some really nice, buttery, smooth lead parts out of it. I am absolutely loving it. Yeah, absolutely sick. Let's move on to the next amp knob in the bundle. Next up, we have the BDM 410 JVH, also modeled after a very, very famous Marshall amplifier out there, or if you guys couldn't tell just by looking at the plugin itself here. So this one is going to be a little bit more catered to the chunkier, kind of distorted guitars. It has some different modes on here. It has about 4 different modes. It also has a built-in reverb, but let's just see what it sounds like in just the default position. Just mess around a little bit. Yeah, definitely works a lot better for those more rhythmic pieces. But let's go ahead and move on to another mode on this. And the 4 different modes, I'm assuming, are modeled after the 4 different channels on this amplifier. So I have a feeling we're going to be able to do a lot with this plugin here. So let's go on to mode 4 and let's just see how much extra gain this really adds onto it. Oh yeah, that is absolutely where it is at for sure. I'm actually just curious. I just want to see how much gain do we have on tap here? Because right at around 11 o'clock or so where we just were, that was actually quite a bit of gain. So let's just see what we have here. It's pretty much cranked up. There's even a little bit more on tap, but let's just mess around here. Yeah, that is a disgusting amount of gain. Way too much gain for me, for sure. But I think just kind of bringing it right around, I mean, even 1 o'clock or so. It's kind of got this throatiness to it and this really high fizzle in there. It definitely adds for the attack, and then a little bit of that throatiness in that mid-range. It kind of helps bring out some of the clarity of the chords in there. But you know, down the road, if I was to use this in any kind of production or anything like that, I would probably try to tame just a little bit of that mid-range and maybe throw on a little bit of a low-pass filter just to tame out some of that higher fizziness. But it is still sounding really, really nice. I'm still very, very happy with that. So that is absolutely sick. Very, very cool. Let's check out some of the other modes here. So let's see what mode 1 has. I assume it's either going to be clean or more of a crunchy clean. Let's see what we have. Yeah, you can certainly make a crunchy clean out of that. Let's just bump up the gain and just mess around a little bit, see what we have. Cool. And then on this plugin, like I mentioned before, there is a built-in reverb as well. So let's just go ahead and activate that. And let's see what it adds to mode 1. Definitely fills the space really nicely in there. It's more of a room reverb, or at least that's what it seems like to me. I'm actually curious, how does this plugin handle lead parts? So yeah, I can certainly do some lead parts, though I think this plugin right here is maybe a little bit more tailored to the crunchy area, more distorted kind of rhythmic area for all of those rhythm parts, but it definitely can do some lead work as well. So we never quite got a chance to check out mode 2 because I got overly excited and wanted to check out lead parts on mode 4, since mode 4 is definitely my favorite. But let's move on over to mode 2 and let's see what it has for us. So it's definitely more of like a lighter kind of crunchiness. Let me go ahead and I'm going to just boost the gain all the way. Let's see how much gain we can get out of mode 2. Yeah, definitely a lighter crunch kind of channel, but it still sounds really, really good. So far, I think the BDM 410 JVH is my favorite, but let's go ahead and see what the third plugin in this whole bundle sounds like and see what we can get out of that guy. So you might have noticed that little riff that I just played is very much out of my element of high gain, heavy metal, in your face melting, all that good stuff. And that is because that is probably the main riff that I could hear in my head on the default of the BDM 75 over here. So the BDM 75, I'm not exactly sure which amplifier that one may be modeled after, but it is definitely more for the rocker out there. And they say on their website, Bogren Digital does, that it is more for the punk rockers out there. So let's see if we can make the BDM 75 maybe something a little bit more suitable for the high gain that I absolutely love. So there is 2 channels on here, and one of them is what they are calling the jumped mode. So it's basically adding more to it. So let's go ahead and engage the jumped mode, and let's see what we got going on with the default with that. Yeah, okay, definitely in a better territory for that. Let's up the gain on this as well. That's actually starting to sound pretty good. It's got this kind of high-end growl to it. Really good for some like very rhythmic pieces out there, just like a... Yeah, that is actually really sick. Each of the amp knobs in this bundle have been very, very different. And as you guys have probably been hearing, the reverb that is built in on this amp knob as well is activated. So since we're getting into the more kind of high gain rhythm area, let's go ahead and deactivate that. But I want to really push this amp knob. I really want to push up the gain a little bit, and let's see how it handles a higher gain. It's got this really interesting mid-range, not quite throaty or anything like that, but it's got something going on there in the mid-range, and I think it's actually sounding pretty good. I'm really digging the jumped mode, but maybe add just a little bit more gain. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it up all the way, and let's just see how much gain the BDM 75 has on tap. This is definitely an amp knob that is very, very different from any of the other ones that I've checked out, but it's a really unique tone for sure. I really love just how rhythmic you can get with everything. You can even kind of bring it down a little bit and do like a crunchier clean. I can definitely hear that in there. So let's up the reverb and then let's check out some like the crunchier clean stuff. So yeah, I can definitely see this amp knob being used for something more ambiotic, like a nice intro with a crunchy clean, or even just using the high gain as a sort of texture layered over another amplifier. I think that would be actually really sick with the BDM 75. But something that I did not mention on any of the other amp knobs right here is that you do have a choice of cabs. You have a modern cab and a vintage cab, and then also you can load in your own third-party IR or just go with no cab and use a separate plugin for that. And on the lead knob, on the Bad Boy 800, I believe there is also a lead cab that you guys can use. But I think all of the plugins, all of the amp knobs on this BDM bundle are sounding really, really sick. So definitely good job, Bogren Digital. You guys have absolutely knocked it out of the park once again. Now, I absolutely love the BDM Ampknob Bundle, and the reason I love it so much is the fact that it is very different from any other Ampknob bundle that Bogren has released. Usually they are releasing stuff that is like your face-melting, high-gain, very metal, very high-gain amplifiers, and in this case, it's very different. I mean, the BDM 75 has excellent texture and it's not overly heavy. You have the Bad Boy 800, which is really good for your leads and gives you that buttery smooth leads. And then, of course, you have the 410 JVH, which is something a little bit more familiar to me with some of those chunkier high gain stuff, but not all of it is just high gain. And that is something that I really appreciate with this Ampknob bundle. So I think Bogren did a great job on this release. If you guys are interested in checking out the BDM Ampknob Bundle or any other amp knobs from Bogren Digital, I will have a link down in the description for you guys to check out. Also, remember, if you are enjoying this video in any way, shape, or form, please consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button because it helps me out a ton here on the channel. And with that being said, my name is Chris with High Impact Audio, and I will see you guys next time.